Staff don't leave jobs, they leave managers.
Yep.
And we always felt that was the same sort of thing with us. True. Reps don't leave motels, they leave you. If they don't leave because the motel's not the newest or the flashiest, they leave if you're not providing the service.
Reps, so they like to see that some of the hard-earned money that they've earned, that they're putting into, they're paying us, is being put back into the business.
So much of it, and we see it in management rights too, is actually going back and communicating what it is you've done.
You could be a bit proactive. You could say, oh, Bob, what did you think of that new bed we put in there? And that starts a conversation. Those relationships and giving a shit, like I say, and don't taking them for granted, you keep funneling back to that.
Welcome to Resort Brokers Radio. I'm Trudy. We're going to walk you through the ever-evolving landscapes of hotels, motels, caravan parks and management rights. Here we have experts from all across the accommodation industry, and we've invited them along to tell us all about their success stories, the lessons they've learnt, what their predictions are for the market going forward, and what trends they're seeing. Please join us. We look forward to seeing you there. So you weren't out of Longreach then, though. You'd sold the biggest lease up to that point in the country, and it was the first large regional deal sub 30% that wasn't a franchise, Quest franchise hotel, to be honest with you. So it was a record yield. It was under a big 3.0. It was settled in COVID. Delighted that the purchase has been hugely successful. That's what you want, don't you?
That's right, absolutely.
You want to see people go on to be successful. I think that's the art of a good deal, you know. Very brave of them too. So we got that done, but you weren't out of Longreach. How come you also had Saltbush? Explain how Saltbush had.
Well, we'd also had the Jumbuck too in between all that.
Beg your pardon, I dropped one. Tell us about the Jumbuck before we go into Saltbush. How did you get into that?
Well, about 2013, it was, the lease of it was owned by one of the groups, the syndicates that got together and had a few little investors, and that failed.
Yeah.
So we made an offer on the lease.
Yes.
And Damien contacted the freehold owner.
Yes.
And
visited him.
Did had the option to buy the freehold from him as well. He was a nice gentleman. He'd actually was not very well, and
he didn't want his wife
to have that stress.
To have the stress, so he was happy to sell.
So we bought the leasehold with the option of freehold.
Put and call.
Which we then took up.
Good deal.
So we had the two of them. We cleaned the Jumbuck up and sold a lease off it.
So you just
built the relationships all again.
Yeah, so you just knew, bought a little and turned it round, borrowed against the value you'd created.
It helped because, I mean, we had the Longreach motor in. This was about 2013, I think, we bought the Jumbuck. We had the Longreach motor in. We knew how many rooms we were declining every day, almost nearly every day we decline rooms through the seed. I mean, you always have your December, January,
what kind of
February.
Occupancy were you running at when we sold the Longreach in the end?
Oh, 75%, 75 to 80.
So that's the tipping point where I reckon anything over that, your rate's too low and you need to crank it.
And look, it's, we had those 2.5 months where it's really very quiet.
Yes.
And look, from time to time you might get some road workers or something like that in. That was always a great.
But also, if you know that, I think those really seasonal businesses like that are good because it actually means you can have a break.
It is. You
could actually get a manager in. You could do some cap work.
Well, see, with David and Tanya there, we used to we'd go for a month, they'd go for a month.
I mean, that's why you were able to do it.
That was why we were able to stay there for as long as we were. So we sold the lease of the Jumbuck, and then a bit further down the track we sold the freehold of the Jumbuck.
Yep.
So I guess that really gave us that real confidence to.
Well, by then you knew, right? Because by then you had turned around St George, because that was the same thing.
Really poor condition. The pool, everything about. There were bricks under the Jumbuck. There were bricks under beds. There were
bricks under beds.
Oh, it was
where wheels had broken out, so they just had bricks.
15 frogs in one. 15 frogs in one toilet.
Don't.
Poor buggers here,
dreadful.
So just because it had been run under management by that classic thing that you see in all cycles, you see it occasionally.
Yeah.
There's like new people that find out about leases and they're like, great, 30% or 20% now, and good returns, and you think you can leave them, like you say, like a passive investment, but they're not, right?
That's right.
But you knew that there was demand in the town. You knew that you had the clients. You just need to sort the product out.
From the locals. We ran a fundraiser there when Judy helped those young girls with their fundraiser. We had 320 people at that fundraiser, and that's about 10% of the community came to that fundraiser on the lawns of the Jumbuck, where they used to have sheep sales and wool sales and weddings. So we rebuilt those relationships with the locals and with the reps and cattle buyers, and people loved coming to the Jumbuck because it brought back memories of when the Jumbuck was, it was.
Okay, let's drill into that for 1 second, right? So then if you're going into a small town, right, and Longreach is an interesting town, right, because it's got a lot more drivers than you know.
Yes.
But how do you ingratiate yourself to the locals? How do you do that?
Support them.
Yes. Well, I guess you sponsor sports teams.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is great.
Show.
You make it the show.
Yes.
All those things. Longreach is a wonderful community.
Yes.
And I think because
Most small towns are. We've lived in a few.
yes, but Longreach, because it's so far away from I shouldn't say so far away from everywhere. We say everywhere.
We used to say far away from what?
For those who don't know Queensland well, Longreach is how far from Brisbane?
By
1,200
kilometres drive.
1,200 kilometres. So it takes you what?
A day.
Oh yeah.
We drive 12. No, we drive.
Most people
12
don't
hours.
drive 12 hours straight.
Yeah, well, I think we've done it plenty of times.
Plenty of times.
Oh,
But certainly,
12 hours straight driving, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a 2.5 hour flight.
Yeah,
and that's definitely the easiest.
Flights
way
every
to do it.
day.
Flights, yeah. Okay.
So it's a great community. You do get a great sense of community in Longreach, because if there are things on,
Yes. People come out.
people make an effort, because if they're going away, they have to plan to go away. They can't. If you live at St George, you can say, "Oh, let's duck down and watch the kids play sport today at school," or tomorrow, Friday afternoon, say, "Oh, let's go down and watch Joseph play rugby tomorrow." You can't do that at Longreach. So when people are going away, generally speaking, they plan to be away. So if they know there are community things coming up, they plan around that.
Wow, right.
So
cool.
I think it's more difficult to. People don't necessarily commit in some of the closer regional centres because it's so easy to go away. Or if you've got kids at boarding school, your focus is boarding school. But again, in Longreach, you have to plan to be.
Well, the town's very, very supportive of industry there, and the locals who run businesses there, which is great, like going to the restaurant and stuff, which you don't in some of those others. But I still think you can, as an operator, ingratiate yourself in any sort of town.
Of course you do.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think
you have to do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
sponsoring sausage sizzles and stuff.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
could have been
simple.
completely insular to that sort of stuff, and we would not have had the rapport with the local people that
There
we
were
have.
2 rugby teams in town. We sponsored both at the time.
Well, yeah.
At the time, and I think we sponsored the league team. We sponsored cricket teams.
Yeah,
We sponsored
cricket team.
junior
Anything.
sport.
Local shows, all the little community
local
shows.
community shows. Golf clubs.
It's-
And then if you have a good restaurant,
Yeah.
and you get to know your locals, then that also builds
Because you
rapport.
bring them in and then you stand and talk to them whilst they're having dinner.
Absolutely, and they have a good meal. If it's
So, yeah, they want to support
And
us.
we
They
had
want the
competition. The
restaurant there.
RSL was only
Yeah.
70, 50, 60 or 80 metres away. And then the pub was another good pub at
It's
the
a great
time.
pub, yeah.
So we
It was
had
great.
to stick to our guns and provide good food, which we did. And we knew that if we did, we'd...
I can still remember the pork belly.
Yeah.
Tell me this though. Okay, so in regards to business development, right, in those smaller towns where you've got all those industries, and if you were a first-time operator, how would you go about, and you're obviously look at a P&L and everything's through OTAs, and you've got your set business, but you think to yourself, there must be more profitable business. More profitable business is always direct business or corporate business, depending on where you're located. Traditionally, I caveat that. What business development ideas did you have? Did you ever get her on the phone when you got to a new town and called the people who stayed? Did you, when you go into a new motel, look at who stays? What do you do? You're probably not even aware of what you do. It's so automatic.
I wouldn't say we necessarily got on, maybe to some of the bigger companies, some of the companies.
Yes.
But
In Emerald we did, in those early days.
Yeah, probably Emerald.
I'd see other cars and we'd ring that company.
Yes, we would.
And,
you'd see cars and particularly cars in uptown or in other motels. Not that we went stalking around the other motels, but
you'd be the only motelier who does.
Or you'd be really upset when you'd see one of your cars in someone else's motel. You'd, oh, what's going on
We like
there?
to share the love
And
around.
that would certainly be the call. Oh, how are you going? La, da, da. But
See, I reckon that old school thing's lost. I do. I think, you know.
Certainly the thing that people really love is to be remembered.
Yes.
And we did, even at the Motor Inn, we still did, well, not the boys so much, but Tanya and I did a lot of reception, particularly in those early days. So recognising people's faces and
relationships,
having and just, and sometimes you won't remember their name, but you've got the reservation list in front of you on the computer. You skim through and you spot that person's name and you think, oh, right. So as they walk in the door and, remembering what their industry is and how's business and where have you come from today, knowing your region too. So when they say, oh, I've come from Birdsville today, that's a big effort. That's a long drive. You're not saying, oh, okay, what did that take you, 2 hours? Or, knowing those sorts of things, I think people
makes you feel
and your tourism product.
Locked in.
Your tourism product as well. And also reps like to, if you're talking corporates, they like to see that some of the hard-earned money that they've earned that they're putting into, they're paying us, is being put back into the business. So they like to know that we're loving them through, keeping the TVs up to date and
so do
the
you
remotes
tell
with
them
batteries
that?
in it.
If I came to stay and I travelled and I was a rep in the area and you'd say, Trudy, have you been? Where have you been today? What have you sold today? And I do have lots of great moteliers who do that. And you're right, it is good. It's nice to be remembered. Yeah. Particularly if you've been driving a long way, you haven't had reception, just to be remembered when you're away from home a lot and have a bit of familiarity.
Yes.
Right? And you would then, would you then tell them what you've done? You're going to like your room. We're going to put you in your usual room.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually knowing, remembering those things about, and you can't remember everybody, but in all of these systems we have areas where likes and dislikes.
Yes.
So you actually document that
those?
stuff. Yes.
I think it's fantastic. That's a really practical tip for people.
But just ducking back to Emerald, we had some reps that, there was a couple of reps that always, we didn't have a liquor license or anything. Yep. But there was some of those regular reps, we'd always Damien put a couple of beers in there for them. One of the reps didn't drink beer, he drank Coke, so he'd always have a couple of Cokes in his room. They were just complimentary things we did, which, I don't know.
No, it's amazing.
May have made a difference or may not have, but they were little things.
Well, it keeps feeding back into that relationships
and being
giving
special.
It then. Yeah.
I tell you, you are going to, as long as the shower runs warm, like you're going to stay at that, and the bed's sleepable. You'll stay there for that reason without a doubt.
That's exactly right. I remember years ago at some 2-day course, we used to do those things, and they talked about managers, and they said, well, generally, less so now, I think, but back 20 and 30 years ago, they used to say, staff don't leave jobs, they leave managers.
Yep.
And we always felt that was the same sort of thing with us. Reps don't leave motels. They leave you. Totally. If you're not, they don't leave because the motel's not the newest or the flashiest. They leave if you're not providing the service. So that was a tenet.
Because people are creatures of habit, and if you're moving around a lot, and I know this, I always want to see new property, but even that, you fall back to the things if you're tired or if you've liked something particularly, and really if anything makes you feel warm, and that's always a service first and foremost.
Part of that, you could be a bit proactive. You could say, oh, Bob, what did you think of that new bed we put in there? And that starts a conversation. And we would always oversupply. If we were 3.5 star or 4, we would always, and you'd, in those days, don't even start me on the star rating, where that all went that all went pear-shaped.
You didn't need 12 champagne flutes to be 4-star.
Exactly.
But we always provided a bigger TV. We always went for a 5-star hotel bed because it only cost bugger all really in the big scheme of things to provide that better bed.
Yeah.
And someone coming, if they come back and stay with you twice more,
they paid for it.
they've paid for it, and then you continue to have and they talk about you in the service station down the road to that other.
They really do.
So
absolutely.
those relationships and giving a shit, like I say, and don't taking them for granted, you keep funneling back to that.
Can I tell you can really feel it when and there's a difference between being financially disciplined, obviously,
of
but
course.
I always think that too, at the end of long days, like I've got a vendor who, you guys haven't done this for me actually, so we might need to talk about that, but always put New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc if I'm there for 2 nights.
Oh my
Well, can I
God,
tell you,
Trudy.
I've only sold 1 property in that
We
town.
go out.
I've never
especially
been
to buy-
anywhere else.
We especially go out and buy a bottle of Cloudy Bay just for you.
No. Well, I'd love that. But that you and I'd polish that off before I was in my room. But okay, so this is what I mean. There's so much value to add, and so much of it seems common sense, but it gets busy when you've got so much
It's a
to learn.
simple formula, but it's not necessarily easy to achieve that simple.
No.
You've got to have energy for it. It helps if you're genuinely interested
Yes.
and care, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
That's what I say. It's like these are easy businesses.
Making sure that
if you
teapot
like
is
people.
hot, the juice is cold. That analogy.
And
can
having
be-
pride in it, right?
Yes, that's right.
No matter what star rating it is, having
Absolutely,
pride
that's
in
right.
it.
That's right.
There's a market for every property, and more as population gets bigger and none are built,
That's
right?
right.
There's another thing too that it might have been your dad, or was it Bill? I don't know, but they said, never forget when you're in the motel game that country for dough, coast for show.
Yes.
Now, that's
Years ago.
something that you'll view as.
I don't know. I
should-
think it's
or
all
burgeoning.
day.
That's changed, but in the early days,
Now.
people were saying, "Oh, we'll live at the coast," but
But there was a big
tough
difference
gig.
then.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Massive.
when you bought Emerald, when you bought Longreach, do you remember the yield for the motoring?
Well, there was basically no return on it,
No,
on their figures.
No, okay.
But they did have a reasonable turnover still. And I know our David Burrows
Yeah.
called me one day and he said, Judy, are you sure about this Longreach thing? And I said, and I'm thinking, oh, why am I suddenly feeling nervous about this Longreach thing? And he said, I've just had another client and he had inspected Longreach and said there was nothing in it. And I said, well, there's not actually. There's nothing showing at the moment. But I said, that's why we're getting it so cheaply. But I said, this is their turnover, David, and I can't believe their rent's reasonable. I can't believe that there's not profit in it. And he said, oh, fair. So it was just.
But I agree with
was
you. You
loose.
see, whenever we'll at the end we've got time. We'll talk about what we look for or what you look for. But I think we can never sell blue sky. You can only sell it on the number it's making, right?
right.
You might buy it because of the blue sky.
That's right.
And we've done deals like that,
right.
which we'll come to. But
This isn't the rural industry after all.
no, it's not.
Exactly.
It's a cash flow industry. But I agree. It's if there's a turnover, then
Yes.
well, then it's just a bit of discipline or a bit of energy, right? And often there's a story
Yes.
of what the previous people. You saw that a bit after COVID. Just people went
Exactly.
off the ball, or a personal situation, or something's happened very suddenly.
That's right.
And you see it, but the turnover's there.
And
Yeah.
look, there
Much
was
easier than
there
growing
was
turnover.
there is a lot of that. Like, look at the management of the property.
Yeah.
Can you do a better job,
Yes.
or can you not? And we looked at a property recently,
Yes.
which we unfortunately missed out on.
Yes.
And it was running very well,
Right.
and we always do try to look for a lot of upside.
Yep.
So there wasn't necessarily going to be a lot of upside in this, but it had consistently been doing this for years.
Turnover.
Easy to run.
Turnover and the profit.
Yes.
Good property.
But we believe we could do it. We could continue that.
Been run under without talking about the
Run under management. We would have kept the managers
Yes.
on. So we weren't worried about that dropping off. But
Yes.
certainly, if you don't if you're not going to run it well, then you're taking a big risk buying a property that's running well.
Well, you
Don't
take
forget-
a
Because
risk.
all
You
you're
can't
doing
buy
is-
it just because you can run it
No,
better.
that's
unless
right.
you're
You've got to
stealing it,
remember
right?
that.
Like
yeah,
I didn't believe we would really be able to make a lot of difference in that property.
But it was solid town
It was
scale.
solid town.
Great town.
It was-
Yeah.
Yes.
And the
Great
yield will
location.
do that for you anyway.
And sometimes
right?
you
Yields are
just
compressing
go,
so tight.
it was just such a good
and remember, Toe, that
consistent.
but you have to go back to everything being equal. You don't want to. These things don't apply necessarily to all towns. So you've still got that. Everything being equal means that there are some towns out there you can be the best operator around, but you're not necessarily going to have a good business.
I don't know if I agree. It's early in the day.
You've got to be careful. Yeah.
Yes, you do. But I think more and more now, as long as you're buying it on what it's doing.
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
Then yes,
you've
got
never
to
forget
you're not
that.
necessarily going to turn it into,
Yes.
the most amazing business in the world because the capacity is just not there as far
It's
as...
like if the only way it really kicks for you is in pulling out wages. I also think that, things like that, that we never teach our guys to sell it like that. We want to sell someone in with all things being equal, without a COVID, without a war, right? Obviously those things that you can't control. But that brings us beautifully into Saltbush because after COVID, right, we had that week, obviously, and then we had the month or so where we were losing deals, but very quickly the industry was back. And then the moment we were out of the gates, because we love a holiday in Australia and we aren't spend big money. And you'd have to say that Australia was under tariffed, wouldn't you? Pre-COVID,
yes.
right? Like really no one could invest. It was a downhill spiral.
Yes.
People couldn't put money back in. The product got tired. People didn't. But people really did find our own backyard, didn't they? And
they did.
Not a property in the country didn't have the best couple of years.
It was wild.
But not many did as well as you guys did. So tell the story of Saltbush. So how did you get into Saltbush? So Jumbuck was it?
Yeah,
Jumbuck. So you sold that, you had it gone?
Bought it, did it up, flipped it.
Flipped it, yep.
We bought Saltbush in 2018, I think.
But you got that pretty much from your reputation. By now, you were tapped on the shoulder.
Well, ironically, it was a relationship with the local
By the
freehold
lovely
owner.
Marty.
Yeah, great bloke.
Shout out, Marty.
Yeah,
Your
Marty.
beautiful wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
He actually he said, if you fellas aren't going into it, I'm going to close it down. And that was coming into the season of 2018.
Yes.
So we were...
So it's a beautiful property.
It's a great
cabins.
property. It was a great
looks
property.
themed, doesn't it? Like it was like
we were. I guess the only hesitation we had was that did we want to go into another one? Did we have the energy for it?
Yep.
That was probably our only, and so he said, as I said before, if you fellas don't go in there, I'm going to close it down. So we said, well, look, how about we go in and run it? Because we didn't have we weren't given the computer system.
Because he had a lessee that left, didn't he?
We were just given a printout, an Excel sheet of all the bookings.
Yep.
A lot of them didn't have phone numbers. Some of the emails didn't, because it was printed out. It wasn't provided to us.
You knew the town, right?
We knew the town.
Who would stay.
But we also had to be able to contact these people, and we didn't. A lot of it we didn't have proper contact details. But anyway, we said, look, what we'll do for you is we'll go in and run it.
Yes.
If we decide we want to buy it, we'll buy it.
Yep.
And if we decide we don't want to buy it, at least you will be able to. You will have it being run under management, and you can resell the lease. So we settled on a price
before you went in.
Before we went in.
Master stroke, yes. Before you done your magic.
Because the good thing about that was we could say, well, we're a bit nervous here.
Yeah.
And
Marty was great, and
Marty
we wrote the
was
lease.
amazing.
Smart enough to know that he didn't know and didn't want to borrow it.
And we wrote the lease. Well, it was our lease, but he agreed. He said, look, you do the lease, and I'll have my people look over it, and if we're happy. So
great.
And he wanted a bit more rent than we were prepared to agree to, and he had a big outlay there. He'd spent a lot of money on that.
It's beautiful property.
Beautiful.
So what we did with Marty was we said, well, okay, we want to start on our rent just because we think that's, and then each year we stepped in by a minimum amount.
So you had fixed increases.
Over 10 years, we had fixed increases for 10 years, which got us up to where he wanted to be.
With the idea that he'd flip it in 10 years or he'd sell, and you'd sell the lease on or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And the idea also being that allowed us to turn it into our business.
And also make it cash flow positive from day dot, right? And make it worth your effort.
It was a good business.
So that was great.
Yeah. Because that was 2 years before you were selling Longreach. You've been in the motor room for 11 and a half years.
13 and a half.
No, but by then let
Oh,
me
yes,
half.
that's
And then,
right.
yep.
Yep.
And so then you had 2 years of the two of them.
Yes.
Right? We did that one. Then COVID happened. You had just been getting Saltbush going.
Yes, that's right.
And then COVID happened. So what happened during COVID? Because I know what happened after.
Well, we had 3 months where it was pretty grim.
Yep. 3
and
months only.
3 months. So from the late March to June.
Yes.
And the same at the motor, and it was pretty grim. And both leases. So, you know, we had our rents. Marty Smith said to us, because, you know, at the time,
The leasing code
the
of
government
conduct.
was sorting out all the lease stuff.
Which was
and
amazing,
Marty said, don't pay me any rent for a year. And we'll review it at the end of 12. I mean, that's the sort of landlord Marty Smith was.
I think there's real.
And you know,
Keeping your tenant like you happy,
yes,
though.
but
and in play.
that has been a bit of an issue in our industry, I think, where sometimes economic things impact dramatically in regions.
Yep.
And the landlords have been a little bit inflexible. COVID was different. The government implemented things, which you know, is another debate. But
Depends on the landlord, because the
landlords-
landlord has bills to pay.
I know.
I do think people don't always appreciate
Yes.
that they've got a lot
We've been
invested
both.
in it.
We've been
too.
freehold.
I
yes.
know.
But the thing about it is, and again, I quote Dad, which is the third time so far we have. But,
You'll be proud of you.
but in that, it should be considered a partnership. You know, like you want
is.
a you want a happy, profitable lessee who's making money, putting money back in, protecting your asset. There's no another
right.
I'll
industry
give you
where
an
the tenant
example
looks
of that,
after your
Trudy.
asset.
Our freehold owner at Longreach Motor Inn, he had 50-odd motels at one point. He started in the early 80s.
Yep.
I think he had a couple of motel leases before your dad even came over
Yeah.
from New Zealand. Now, we had a great relationship
wouldn't have
with
because
him.
Dad did
and
the first one, but maybe.
under the terms of the lease, there were things that were the responsibility of the freehold owner.
Yeah.
But we would just, you know, by the time you go through it and annoy him, for the good of our guest, we would just get it done and pay for it because it amounted to bugger all
But
money.
also, you could have another room.
That's right. And so he saw and understood that I still talk to this bloke on a regular basis. He saw that we were people that wanted to work with him, that we were in partnership. There was a symbiosis there, and there's a lot to be said for that. That the freehold owner has a healthy, profitable lessee, then hopefully for 20 years or 30 years, whatever, he doesn't have to worry about that. He just collects his rent. And all things being equal, the lease is still there for recalcitrant lessees, you know, to go back to the lessee and say, under the terms of the lease, you need to spend some money on the paint or whatever, I don't know. But generally a good freehold owner is going to say, well, technically under the lease, you're supposed to paint this place every 5 years, but the place is in magnificent condition. You know, you've done all this other stuff. So it's about relationships again.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think that's the thing. I mean, at the moment, and I think for the foreseeable future, there's a business case and there's so many ways to work with your landlord to get capital works done, to get people spending money, to move the needle without people putting in heaps of capex. The banks are loving with heaps of cash. You know, a lot of places, the rents are looking low, you know, with the new stabilised turnovers, you know, and there's clever ways to do that. But I do, you know what, if I think what's the takeaway hint for that though, is actually there's a lot of lessees who just do it themselves because it's faster, they need the room, they're full.
That's right.
But tell your landlord.
Yes.
So much of it, and we see it in management rights too, is actually going back and communicating what it is you've done. Right? Just want to let you know that I've done that. Look, I know it was yours tongue in cheek, but don't worry. Done it again. I'm looking forward to my new bathrooms next month or next year or whatever, you know.
That's right.
And really building that rapport and coming back around.
That's right. And that's something we're definitely encouraging our daughter, which is another story.
Yep.
To have that relationship with their freehold owner.
And encourage them to come out, be my guest. I really want to show you, without them feeling like they're coming out to get given a whole list, you know, like, but again, I need to tell that to you
like
too.
don't just speak to your landlord when you want something from them. That's right.
So that's that's the hint. Okay, so Saltbush. So then when did you call me about Saltbush?
Oh, I don't know. Good question.
when did we
I
sell?
guess it was early 2022, wasn't it?
Yeah, 22.
Yeah.
So I think it'd been
1st
a
of
minute.
July 22 was 4 years to the day after Longreach motor in settled.
So that'd been hugely successful. Then COVID for 3 months, then it didn't really affect it.
It was, and then it was just madness, absolute madness. We were having months where our occupancies were 100%.
How?
Well, just the Australian public were travelling.
Yes.
And
it was great to see. It was like
it was
just town on steroids.
It was just madness.
Wonderful.
It was just so busy, and just always making sure that we were confirming with everybody on the day, so that if somebody couldn't make it or something had happened, they weren't going to get there. Being able to release that room to sell to someone else, because they were still, as busy as it was, there were still people turning up looking for rooms in the evenings. It was very.
We still had our corporates, and I remember when Judy and we bought when we first moved in, and what's the government corporate booking?
Lido, HRS
and Lido. Oh my God! You're there. So they knew that we always answered the phone. An unanswered phone was anathema. So
the phone hadn't been.
No, I don't know what was going on.
No.
But they knew that we would.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of the corporates, and particularly given that there was a slightly different room type.
They
were all self-contained.
This was when we first went.
They're not competing product. That's why it was not.
No,
and there was no restaurant, which is fantastic.
But also they were self-contained. They were different product cabins.
And then we had the premium rooms out the back.
Yeah.
So, those relationships were already being built, and the COVID was just cream on the top. It was unbelievable.
Unbelievable, wasn't it? So do you always go and stay in a motel when you first take it over? And for the first few months?
Well, we did in Roma.
You did in Roma. Did you in Saltbush?
No.
Because you knew it and you're around the corner. You know it so well. You lived there.
We lived there.
Now, Saltbush was interesting because effectively, I think Marty called me. Did you call me or did Marty? You called me.
Damien.
I'd gone to Marty.
Lease. No. And I said to you, the rent's low. We should talk to your landlord. And you said, I think Marty would sell. Happy days. And that's when we met the lovely Stanton family.
Yes,
who have since bought many proproperties from us.
Yes.
And Robert and his daughters are hugely
Great
successful.
Wonderful family.
Wonderful family.
Sold to the earth. What an amazing deal was that.
Amazing.
And unbelievable. And still an unbelievable business. I'm always trying to get him to resell it. Can't get him to. One day, Robert, one day. Actually, probably your girls, really. Then you were going to retire. So that brings you up to recently. So then you're retiring. Second time in your motel career that you're going to be out.
That's right.
Right? And I think just before we did that, I was doing a deal on a property called the Roma Explorers Inn. The Roma Explorers Inn, this is a good yarn. When you talk about that dinner, the Roma Explorers Inn was 81 keys, big restaurant. 89, beg your pardon, just checking you know it. And a conference centre. Really big property. Bruce Garvey, you'd known from back in the day because he built the movie theatre that you were managing.
I knew him back from the early 80s when I was a carpenter in Roma.
And he had since then gone on board built the Emerald Explorers and the Roma, right?
Yeah.
We've sold
the Mulga Inn
and the Mulga Inn. And we had sold all of them over the years, but we'd sold Emerald for him about a year and a half earlier, and at the same time as us doing Saltbush, right? I was doing a deal with some really great guys. We call them the Toms, Tom and Tom, who are fantastic investors and have a great portfolio of lots of different businesses, really smart, salt of the earth guys, very unassuming. And I was about to sell them that property, and that was a property that had a huge turnover, huge. Well, we thought it was huge then. And again, had that thing where it just wasn't having the profit. Run under management, lovely lady who managed it, managed it herself. Lovely lady, worked hard, right? And really sat through the highs and lows. Because you've got to remember...
and Roma had a
droughts and stuff. You get affected by that stuff, right? Roma is more inland than Longreach?
No.
Or more...
It's only 700
It's only...
kilometres.
700.
No, it's only 450 from here.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah, so much more. Yeah, so much more closer to. Sorry, when I say inland, Longreach is
anyway.
More
It's
inland.
a short drive to Roma from
4.5 hours, short drive. Yeah. So I think that's a bit of salesman's license, but I like that. When you're checking me with that, right? And then they knew you because your family
Tom
Yes.
Collins.
Yes, Tom Collins. Yes, there's
Sorry, Tom.
No, exactly. I know they always like to go under the radar.
Yeah.
But I think they asked you the day before they were going to go unconditional on that deal. I think they
We'd had a
called
meeting
you.
with them at the Carlisle, actually, about motels
at the Carlisle,
generally. And
Yeah.
we'd spoken to them earlier about Saltbush, and we'd said, you fellas need to get into motels.
Yep.
But then it clicked.
Then it clicked. Well, it kind of clicked.
I mean, they've got.
Kind of clicked because we had Roma
Yes.
under contract. All the DD was done.
Well,
This is a
they
great story.
did contact us to see if we were interested in joining them initially,
Managing it for them.
Because they
we
like
said-
to have
and
people
buying in with them.
Yeah, no, they do. They like
And
to
we
get
said,
in the game.
we said, look, we're just out
We're
of
done.
Saltbush. We're out. So
And then you also,
And-
but that's not all you
and-
said, was it?
we said, well, we did say, well, we think it's probably a bit overpriced too, because we're old-fashioned industry people. But that was fine. That didn't necessarily worry them.
Oh, I think it did.
But
Did it?
they had another.
No, I think
They
They
had
had a
a
bloke that was
teased
They
going
had
to do
another
our role.
fellow that was going to do
Yeah.
our
And
T-Mac?
he pulled out.
and he pulled out.
Yeah,
of it.
they
So
want to
that-
focus on that.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
part
that
of the business.
I think that, and that just left them without anyone knowing their industry. They did contact us again and said, "Look, he's pulled out. Are you sure you're not?" So we said no. So
And there was some
I think
health
that-
stuff going on. And,
No, I'm only teasing it. For the sake of this, it's a good story,
And,
right? It's a great story. So we went out
So
to the
then
Saltbush
fast
dinner.
forward 2 years time.
Yes, Saltbush dinner, celebratory dinner at
Yes.
SK, and you tell me that they just pulled out, and you told me at the end of the night that actually maybe you'd had a little bit to do with it, which I loved. Then, how did you get back in? How did I call you?
You called me out of the blue
Did
and
I call
said
you out of the blue?
Well, we were buying Emma's mode.
we'd spent about 12
You
months
rang
looking
us
around. for Emma.
supposedly about
That's
Emma's
it.
Charleville one,
I
but obviously,
And you said,
I
look,
wasn't calling
obviously
you.
I
this-
think I can put a deal together where you could get into the Roma. I could go to Bruce because Bruce, he just wants to sell.
Yeah.
And
His manager was ready to go.
ready
he
to
was
go.
Ready.
The
We'd had
time
the fall over,
I
done a big
reckon,
campaign.
would
yep.
you be interested in going in, have a chat with Judy?
Going in
And
on
I
a
reckon
low lease?
going on a
giving
low
away.
lease and then building the rent up, you need to get in there and give you time. We just have a
pretty much like
corporate,
Saltbush,
a corporate,
Exactly like what you
and
said
I
with
reckon I
Saltbush.
can sell, knowing who you are, I can sell the business, the freehold investment to someone. Blah blah blah. I had a
So
yarn.
I was
Judy and I had a
effectively
yarn.
going to you guys were going to back yourselves, over rent it, right? Quite
Yep.
sharply over
Yep.
3 years.
We
'cause
were
it
ready.
had to
We'd had,
work.
we were well again.
I could feel that you were
healthy.
ready. That's
we
why
were
I must
2
have
years
thought.
out by
We were
then.
2 years out,
Okay,
and
get in there.
so we drove
Sick of
down
it- sick of
700
ourselves.
k's,
Yeah.
and it was only a month or so prior to that we'd stayed there and we'd walked around and said, "Oh, wouldn't it be great to own this place?" Because it is such. Bruce, it's his pièce
I mean,
de
it's a credit.
resistance. It's a beautifully
it's
built.
so solid, isn't
beautifully
it?
built building.
Shout out, Bruce. Beautiful motel. Fantastic.
And we had a look, and I said to you and Judy, I said that Judy and I were not interested unless we can sort the restaurant out because our age, we're just not interested in going.
I knew you were excited though.
Well, we were.
yeah, we
So
were.
I said, we'll need to sort that. And then you were driving away, and I said, why don't you ring the two Toms? And you
I
said, do you
said,
think I should? Should I? Yes. But you had all that long drive then too. And then I said to
Because
Judy,
it just made sense to buy the whole
I
thing.
bet you get a phone call from one of the Toms within about.
And can I
24
tell you,
hours.
the moment they knew you were in, boom.
Yeah.
And that deal just went through.
It did.
Easiest, quickest.
So,
Very quick,
what a
very
beautiful, what a to be continued conversation. But what a beautiful place to finish. How's it trading now?
Oh,
Wonderfully.
yeah, great. Yeah.
Wonderfully. So what? Okay, so let's to cap it all from our first episode, right? We started going into our big property again. Every property you've got's a bigger challenge because it's new scale, it's
Yes.
a new town, whatever it might be. What has been similar to when you bought the first motel in regards to the challenges, and what has been the biggest change of going into a new property as an operator?
Well, I think the thing the really big thing we've seen over the last 20 years, well, perhaps a bit less than that, but is the OTAs. It's such a massive influence on our industry now. But with that comes the ability to improve and people acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So it's not like the old-fashioned times of marketing where you had no idea where your marketing dollar was going. At least this way, you pay your OTA commission, but you only pay that when you sell a room.
Yeah.
So that's been massive for us, and I think it'll only get bigger, and people have confidence in those brands. You know, Booking.com's it's a brand people rely on.
So how do you circumvent it? What are you doing with your rate? Are you moving your rate to outpace it, or are you just allowing it as a business cost and that's your marketing? Are you giving things to guests that come? What are you doing to try and deal with what is the biggest cost increase in your business?
Well, it is a big cost increase, but it's hard to quantify where we'd be without it.
Yep.
Because our marketing, our advertising bills were quite high in those early days.
Yep.
And you had no idea whether it was effective marketing or not. At least this, and we used to poll our people and say, you know, oh, how did you find us? Did you find us through the yellow page? Did you find us through the sign out?
Which is the only way to find out, isn't it?
That's right.
Yep.
And whereas now, at least we know it is, and it is a big cost. It is a big cost. But the argument is, do you add that cost on and charge more to Booking.com?
As opposed to your own bookings.
As opposed to your own booking. Or do you say, well, we just bring our rate up to meet Booking.com so that when they do book with us, we get that added thing. So it's a difficult one there to know, and you've just got to work out what your price point is.
So I believe, have you found out in Roma that you have got to a tipping point of the rate, or are you amazed how actually no? Like, I think there's a real risk for people not to be aggressively moving the rate and passing costs on.
Well, I think if you have a couple of different room types, that helps you define where you can go.
Yeah. So you have a lead rate.
You always have your lead in rate. Yeah. I mean, where things are a little bit quieter at the moment.
Yeah, of course they are.
With the fuel.
Yeah. Won't be for long.
But that's right. That's one of those
it could
economic
be a bit
drivers.
of a COVID thing that people might say. That's,
not for buyers.
But look, it's I don't think it's a serious concern for
the
us.
underlying things that make it good is the fact there's not enough rooms.
That's right. And don't forget, it comes back again to relationships. If your regulars can be encouraged to contact you directly, then there's ways that aren't, where they're not necessarily booking through Booking.com where they otherwise may. So again, it comes back to those relationships.
But also explaining it to people. I've had people book on Booking.com in a reception.
That's
right.
I know.
So that's again comes back to relationships, particularly with your regulars.
And
if they know that oh my God, they'd love to help you.
Yeah.
That money's coming into your pocket.
I think most people would if they knew.
It's also, there's things we do for people that book directly. Well, we always have a more flexible booking cancellation policy.
Yep.
I mean, we're pretty flexible anyway, within reason. If people cancel, that's fine. If people don't turn up, we charge.
Right.
Simple as that.
A little bit of relationship back at you.
Well, if people don't have the manners to cancel a room, then they must expect to pay for it.
But I agree with that.
We've had staff over the years that have played that game where, no, check-in time is 2:00. I mean, do you want everyone
walking? You're in the hospitality business, aren't you?
That's right.
The service business like us,
Yeah. Look, it's, Roma's a great town. Roma was always a great motel town.
Still, we spoke to, we did a big campaign on that, and people weren't confident in, look, again, I very much, it is for me to say it, I didn't have the money to buy, but I thought it was a great buy, but people just couldn't, it wasn't quite doing what the yield was then, which I think was 10 or 11. It's so good on you. You deserve the success.
Right? You were changes. That's one of the changes. I think one of them is technology. We started out in '97 with a book that we used to draw the 95 with the things on and write down everything on the piece of paper. So technology in general, and we were one of the first to ever use, if that's at Motelia, this fella came around and he said, we've developed this. So we're one of the first to take up the Motelia at the Emerald Tower. Yeah. That was a really big thing. But the other one is, for Judy and I, is just the change. For so many years we'd tell our friends and family about the investment value of, if you rent a house and you have this return, that tenant could kick a hole in the wall and you've got to fix the bloody thing. But you have a tenant in a motel, for all intents and purposes, they've come up with a lot of their own money, their own hard-earned cash.
They would have vested.
They look on it as their own. They treat it as their own.
Couldn't agree.
And they forget the terms of the lease. Fixing a hole in the wall. They want to fix a hole in the wall for their guests anyway.
Looking after it.
That's right. So, but what's changed, I think, is the fact that it was hard to convince people of that. But all of a sudden, I saw one of your guests in one of your podcasts. They're building these now, these whole stables of. So the corporates have got involved and the funds have got involved. That seems, from our dilettante point of view.
I think there's a lot of people who want to get into the space that don't want to operate.
Yes.
But I think accommodation was seen as a left of centre investment because it had this goodwill factor. At the end of the day, it was down to having you guys who was giving great service, and that's what gave the $20 extra, and that's what made the extra profit on a compound over a big property, right? And I think and that's why I'm always trying to encourage people to not forget the basics, because anything can turn, but also make hay while the sun shines and keep moving the rate and passing on, because I think the underlying domestic tourism, what's happening now with the war and stuff too. I know petrol for a second, but that's only because people don't want to get caught.
No, that's right. That's all that is. It's not about the price. It's
people
about
won't be flying overseas for a long time.
That's right.
I don't think at the same rate on those big trips. Make sure you're charging right. That's why we're always adamantly saying make sure you charge and pass it on.
Yes.
The end user can use it. We're still not an expensive country.
I'll tell you something else that's changed too. People paying the night they arrive. It used to be this massive thing when we first began that everyone would stay the night and then they would pay as they were leaving. It's wonderful these days. That's all done.
People just want to go and get on the road, don't they? It's like the way they eat on the road. That's the way they eat on the road.
And the expectations of the travelling public.
Yeah, what do you reckon about that?
Well, COVID has helped to change that, and certainly some of the apartment hotels where they don't service their, that all of a sudden travelling public sort of, they don't service the rooms. Well, we're used to that in Brisbane. We still service our rooms, but
do you reckon you could get away with it though? Do you reckon you could do it on a 4-night stay or something? Not really, not with the clientele you've got, the rate you're charging.
That's right.
It's like we still run a night bell, because there's there's an extra room in it if we're. But we run it because quite often the town's full and you want to help people. We used to put when the town was full in Longreach, we'd put the no vacancy sign up so that people would come in and we could help them.
No, we'd take the
no vacancy sign away that people would come in and then we'd say, look, there's a room up at Albert Park.
I tell you, they do not make them like you.
But that's important.
But it is more difficult. Like that's not something we try in Roma
because it's undermanaged.
It's so difficult to
it's a
keep
big
on
joint
top of all that. And I think now also with all the OTAs, people can very quickly see where the accommodation is. Whereas 10 years ago, that 10, 15 years ago, that was less of a thing. But
the point was, I was trying to say, is that you're back to those fundamentals.
Yeah.
Never forget the fundamentals.
Yeah. And the idea of that was that hopefully the next time they came to town, they'd come to us first again.
That's right.
They'd say, that's the place that, found me that room that last time.
And it's still the difference from good to great.
Yeah.
Like the underlying factors of the industry are the fact that there's no new hotels and there's growing population and the domestic tourism is going to fill a lot of the weekend. So your occupancy is good, but the money's in the rate.
Yes.
And never forget the service.
It is.
What a beautiful place to end it. You promise me you'll come back when we sell you out of Roma and sell you into your next one?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You don't have to sell us out of Roma to get us into the next one.
No.
Okay. Well, there you go. There you go. The best buyers, I can say that firsthand. Thank you. And the best operators. Thank you so much. I love working with you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trudy.
We've enjoyed our time working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us at Resort Brokers Radio. Please subscribe and follow us and give us a 5-star review so we can be back again next time. Thanks a lot.